Let's just dive straight in. In the video's post-Mania Forces release, I said I wanted to do a video about level design, but first wait to see which of the two games is the most successful, since that could be an important factor. So, who's the winner? Who sold the most copies? I don't know. Sega never gave us any specific precise numbers, just vague, it's in the top 10 best-selling for this specific week on this specific system in this specific category stuff, which isn't very helpful. We got no numbers.
Well, VG Charts has some numbers right here.
I hear they're not reliable.
Well, Sega said the games performed strongly, but that's big corporate speak. Translated to normal human language, I think it means, don't panic, it's not a complete disaster, please don't sell our stocks.
Well, to be fair to Sega, they have been honest with the Sonic games that didn't do too well before. Although I suppose it's more embarrassing to admit they failed now after all that "we care about quality now" fanfare.
They said Sonic Mania sold more than 1 million copies in total, and that's before Mania Plus. And Sonic Forces is reported to have sold over 220,000 copies after its first week in retail, but that didn't include the PC sales. And it's only the first week, so yeah, pretty vague.
So, no real numbers? So no real results in our war between Mania and Forces. Bummer. That said, I'm pretty sure Mania sold more. Steam Spy is sadly no longer able to give an exact number, but it takes an estimation that Forces sold between 50 and 100,000 copies, and Mania between 100 and 200,000 copies. That's just an estimation and only the Steam version, but considering it's the only hard numbers we have, as in hard numbers to directly compare Mania and Forces, this is the closest to a conclusion we'll get, so Sonic Mania wins. Anyway, the reason why I was interested in looking at how more Mania or Forces would sell is because those two fighting against each other would have been a fantastic philosophical battle between technical execution and raw appeal. Now, for ages, people like the Sonic series for its world, the sense of adventure, the characters, the soul of the series, the story. I always had to hear that I'm bad about doing that and it's wrong and games should only be about gameplay and I should have a blind obsession in physics because only when Sonic rolls down a cliff in the correct way is supposed to be joyful in a video game.
Hyperbole much? Hyperbole much? Hyperbole much?
So fine, here we go. Sonic Mania, the technical marvel, the gameplay powerhouse hitting all the marks in full perfection and what a good Sonic game should be on a gameplay level, versus Sonic Forces, who was probably going to screw up the gameplay again. No big surprise there, but that game is big on presentation. Sending in the big crowd-pleasing characters, grand music and an epic story, this could have been a fun experiment to really see what brings the butts into the seats. A true gameplay versus story battle right in front of us. But alas, as Sonic Forces got released, well, the gameplay was disappointed as I could predict, but even the story and character use was a complete fuck-up and the entire game was a farce, wasting its entire concept and character use. So this battle between Mania and Forces was already kinda pointless. Instead of gameplay versus story, it's gameplay versus Sega desperately panicking and looking for shiny objects. Not really an epic battle, so yeah. I mean, I still like Sonic Forces, but it could have been so much more.
Hey, maybe we'll get a Sonic Forces Plus, although I think they need considerably more fixes and new content to fix up Forces. Pretty much triple the game in content and remake everything that's already in it.
But yeah, the big question is, did Mania win enough? Sega is desperate and always looks for easy magic tricks to keep the franchise relevant. With Mania not being the god-chosen money-printing magic spell that it is, I doubt they'll build on Mania for future games and will just blindly bounce to the next gimmick and trends in the desperate hope that that will be the new Skylanders or Rabbids.
But okay, enough about sales numbers. What are we, economic analysts? I recall you wanted to talk about the level design, comparing Mania with Forces. I don't know why, this has already been hammered into our heads, hasn't it? I get it. Mania has multiple paths, interactive physics-powered gimmicks, freedom, twists and turns. Forces is linear running in straight lines. Enemies aren't threatening. I get it. I get it.
Well, true, I didn't want to discuss the level design itself that has been discussed endlessly, and I'm going to assume viewers are already familiar with it. The actual thing I wanted to discuss about it is Sega's philosophy. You see, whenever I see people rant about Sonic Forces level design, it seems they seem to assume it's because the level designers are incompetent newcomers with no experience and have no idea what they're doing, which could be true to some extent, but I disagree that that's the sole story. Sonic Forces level design was specifically designed. In fact, Sega's very aware of it and proud of it. The level designers even gave a lecture about level design at a game conference.
So, stupid people can give lectures.
True, as this video proves. Right. Nevertheless, it shows it's deliberate and they're proud. This isn't just incompetence or misunderstanding. This is them genuinely considering this is the future. This series has been growing to this point for a while now. You can just see the 3D games becoming more and more linear by every new game, or the 2D games becoming increasingly more flat by each new installment. Look, some time ago there was this article about Sonic Team being asked if Sonic Adventure 3 was ever coming. They said going back on Sonic Adventure's foundation would be a step back and that they rather would evolve.
Fair enough. Sonic Adventure is rather messy and clunky. Modern Sonic is way more streamlined.
It's actually close to their opinion about Classic Sonic as well, as they basically said the same thing about the physics around Sonic 4's release. Sonic 4 is an update, the evolution, the next step for the old-fashioned classic games.
Huh, that's a laugh. They said that back in 2010 though. Who knows if they changed their opinion since?
Yeah, that's the question. Anyway, Sonic 4 compared with the classics, or modern Sonic compared with the adventure games, they're more lean, more streamlined, more simple, more tight. Instead of the labyrinth level design and complicated invisible physics system to master, they give you straight levels with homing attacks and level gimmicks, creating a smoother way to Sonic blast through the levels without the player screwing up too much. Instead of the complicated three-dimensional locations for the camera to get stuck in, or the player to get confused or out of control, you get more linear levels with an easy-to-recognize route and more opportunity to gain incredible speeds.
Yeah, at the cost of everything that made these games interesting. What's the point of mastering the levels if it's not even me doing it? It's so much more fun to fly through the levels because I dodged obstacles like a boss, rather than looking at endless cutscenes of Sonic bouncing on a spring.
And let me be clear, this isn't necessarily my opinion, I'm just trying to figure out Sonic Team's mindset. I have to assume they think their improvements on the classic Sonic formula is a step forward. With Sonic
Thanks, friends!
Ah, him! Stay away from me!
Huh? Did I say something last time?
I usually get hurt when you're around.
The truth hurts sometimes, Luke, but we must face it head on. And speaking of truth, I wanted to talk about the classic Sonic from Generations compared to the one in Forces. Izuka confirmed at a recent panel that the classic Sonic from Generations...
Anyway, I kinda see the point for Sonic Team. I did let a lot of Sonic virgins, so to speak, play Sonic Mania, and they get stuck quite a few times since that game relies a lot on old-school instincts that newer gamers might not have. Heck, even I had a few confusing moments with Mania. There's one thing that game loves that always frustrates the hell out of me, where you have a segment where you bounce up and down and go all around in this huge open space for a long time, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're trapped. And I'm confused. I'm trying to find my way to the right for a length of time. No idea what I'm supposed to do. Well, I'm supposed to go backtracking and go back to the left, which at this point feels unnatural. Now, I never had a problem with previous Sonic games when you suddenly had to go to the left. That happens quite often, actually. The difference is that in previous Sonic games, they tend to communicate more clearly when the direction of the level changes. The first Game Gear game, for example. Not really a game well known for its level design and all that, but it's a perfect clean example of what I mean. Like, you fall down in a cave, you stay on that path, and then you run into a wall, but the only option you have is going up. Until you can't climb any further, but now there's a new route to the left. So it makes sense. The level design is carefully demonstrated to me, so I have a mental map in my head. This is what usually happens, that most previous Sonic games clearly communicate that the pathway to your left is brand new by having a very clear transition to that position. You can't go to the right, you go up, and now there's a new path to the left. With Mania, it's complete chaos, and you bounce down and up and left and right and all around and up and down. So by the time I run into the dead end and need to change direction, my brain doesn't really have a mental picture of what just happened. I don't have a mental map. And I'm not really aware of any specific route to the left. As far as my brain knows, it's just a bunch of random clutter to the left I already bounced from.
That's not an excuse to completely ditch proper level design, though. It just means you suck at the game. And the level designers need to be a tad more careful in guiding dummies like you through the level. In fact, who knows? Maybe Mania Plus has already addressed this and adapted the level design. Could be.
Sure, I didn't say complex level design is bad per se, just that it requires a lot of subtle tricks and knowledge and insight. So with the Mania team on the case, miracles can happen. Alas, it's Sonic Team on the case for the most games now, and they're more the blindly panic and burn everything to the ground if it needs fixing type. So here's a dilemma going on right now, that the fanbase and Sonic Team seem to have a different and contrasting vision for what evolution means, what the future means. When fans say that they want Sonic to evolve, they keep pointing to the past because they think the complexity of the past games is key. Keep the depth of the past, just evolve and smoothen that out. While Sonic Team seems to think that the complexity itself is what holds the series back, and is on a constant quest to streamline the series further and further into a more flatter, simplistic experience. Both with the gameplay, the use of the characters, story depth, everything has been flattened and reduced to the bare minimum of what it once was.
A lot of fans seem to like the stories that are more flat and basic now, though. There's fans who love the more simple and focused gameplay as well.
Well, of course, there's so many competing factions of fans at this moment that you can get support in every direction. Either way, the series being flattened and reduced to a bare rug version of the past is the general direction the series is going through right now. The frustrating part is that they do have brief flashes of brilliance here and there. Like, the parkour system of Lost World looked like it had a potential to finally bring in new dimensions to the core platforming itself, instead of just being yet another stupid side gimmick. But then it seems Sonic Team has no confidence in it, and the parkour seems to be trivialized even in its damn introduction game, so we never really got a good taste of it.
Up until Mania saved the day.
Yeah, I suppose so. So that's gonna be the big question right now. So far, I never saw Sonic Team really comment on what they really thought about Sonic Mania, at least in terms of why it's differently perceived from their other works, the other classic Sonic imitations. I love to see someone ask Iizuka what he thinks of what the difference between Sonic 4 and Sonic Mania is. But alas, every time I see him talk about Mania, it's just in a, oh, we just wanted to make a 2D Sonic thing again, and this was a nice opportunity kind of way. He's talking about it like it might as well just have been Sonic 4 Episode 3, really. So that's really the big question. Does Sonic Team know what the difference is between Mania and their work? Or will they just chalk it up to a surface-level gimmick as usual, like concluding it's just the pixel art that people like about Mania?
I suppose the Mania developers had several talks with Sonic Team, so they would have brought it up.
Nothing frustrates me more than when I read comments like, I hope Sonic Team learns from Mania's success and will make more 2D classic games in the future. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand the sentiment and I wouldn't mind acting upon it here and there, but the problem is, what do you think Sonic Team has been doing the past decade? That's exactly what they have been doing. The series is primarily in 2D. Green Hill Zone is everywhere, Classic Sonic is everywhere. What we're getting right now is them trying to recreate the classics. They're doing it terribly, but, you know, that's Sonic Team for you. The problem is that on the surface, it's deep within. They don't get the soul, the engine of the older games. They just try to replicate the superficial parts of it. Which is why I'm so impatient that Green Hill Zone keeps returning. Not that I really care that much about Green Hill Zone returning. It's just a complete brainless and aggressive way they're doing it. No subtlety, no cleverness, not even any respect or regard of where Green Hill Zone supposed to be is, or how the game's contextualize it. Just bam, checkerboards, everyone, oh my god, remember these, oh my god, it's Green Hill Zone. My wife recently bought a Game Boss's loot crate for fun. It had a Dr. Eggman figure in it, with a Green Hill Zone poster for background for Eggman. It's like, hey assholes, it's Eggman. How about an Eggman land as background? Scrap Brain Zone, or at the very least a Burning Angel Island?
Hearing people rant about that level is more tiresome than seeing the level. But yeah, I hear ya. They're using their previous success as mere dangling shiny objects to lure fans with, rather than properly understanding why they were popular and building from its success. This is exactly the reason why I stopped caring about what direction Sonic Team goes in the future. It doesn't really matter if it's comedy, serious, nostalgic, new, 3D, 2D. It doesn't matter if Sonic Team can't handle it properly. They need to prove they're capable of doing anything right at all before we should bother to ask them for a specific direction. Generations was nice, but the fact the only thing they learned and could manage to produce in the 7 years since then are Lost World and Forces, which is mind-boggling. But at least there's Sonic Mania, and speaking of which, Sonic Mania Plus. More importantly, Ray and Mighty are back. Wow! After missing in action for decades, they're suddenly back. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that's nice.
I expected you to be more happy about Mighty's return. You even made a joke about his disappearance in a cartoon once.
Well, Mania already resurrected Fang, Bean, and Bark too, so I'm not that shocked. Only thing I'm shocked about is that Mighty and Ray are actual physical characters again, and not another bullshit illusion made by the Phantom Ruby or something.
Ray can fly. It kind of reminds me of Mario's cape in Super Mario World. Well, or Sonic's Delta Fly in 8-bit Sonic 2 if you want to keep it Sonic related. Looks like you have to balance going up and down to keep momentum going, and Mighty has a drop-down bounce attack, like Sonic had in Sonic Adventure 2. I wonder how much of this will change the game.
Not much, since Tails could already fly, and Sonic already had the drop down and dash move. So Ray and Mighty really are just a Sonic and Tails recolor. Slightly different, but...
Alright, Mr. Grouch. I think it's still different. Tails can only fly for a set amount of time, while Ray can probably fly forever provided you can master his moves and don't bump into each other for one.
Not that I personally care, but I'm just kind of amused how right after the whole recolors debate on Sonic Forces, we're welcoming Ray and Mighty with open arms in Mania despite them being literal recolors. Same general personality. In the original games Ray and Mighty came from, they literally had the exact same moveset as Sonic, and even now it's just slight variations of Tails flying and Sonic's drop dash. If you hate Sonic clones, they're prime examples way more than Shadow and Silver ever were. Them bringing in a distinct different atmosphere, personality, and even moveset in Silver's case.
Well, for one, they're not hedgehogs, but a flying squirrel and an armadillo.
For another thing, they are from one of the original games. These characters predate even Knuckles. Perhaps the classic fans see these characters as their own, as they debuted in their era. After all, at this point in the series, even Tails couldn't fly. Essentially, every character was just a recolor of Sonic until Sonic 3.
Look, from a modern Sonic perspective, I understand it. Modern Sonic loves lots of characters, lots of world building, big casts, but the classic games were always so focused on being precise, being clean, being like very efficient, and now we have characters with almost exactly the same personalities and gameplay abilities as two characters already have, so it feels kind of like clutter, and I'm kind of surprised why the classic fans are super happy about this. Ray and Mighty's inclusion feels more like a Sonic Adventure kind of mentality, more so than a classic fan mentality, who are usually more obsessive about keeping everything pure and clean, in my experience.
Complain, complain, complain. I, for one, are super excited about their return, and I can't wait to get my hands on Sonic Mania Plus. Thank goodness for Sonic Mania. Typical that the best received Sonic products this decade were made outside of Sonic Team, like Mania, All-Stars Racing Transformed, and the Boom TV show. So perhaps we should put our trust more into the side projects. The IDW Comics, for example, a brand new comic book series starring our favourite hedgehog.
Suppose we should talk about those in the future. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say for the most part in this episode. I suppose I should bring up that minor controversy of Team Sonic's racing amazing dialogue. Seems Tails is back to his Sonic Lost World asshole personality, so that's great news for those who didn't like him in Forces. And while we didn't have any confirmation about the writers of this game yet, the dialogue so far has a distinct, high quality of an Pontafian feel to it. So chances are our friends Pontaf are back in the writer's chair once again. And even if they aren't, the replacement writers do an excellent job channeling their sensibilities. So regardless if it's the maestros themselves at work or just an excellent imitator, the results will be roughly the same. Now, I won't complain that Tails acts out of character. I mean, does he even act out of character? I would have complained about that 5 years ago, but at this point he's been a shithead for over a decade, so at what point is Tails out of character? And at what point is the Pontaf version of Tails just a proper new version?
I'd say Tails is still badly written, considering that his portrayal is too inconsistent now to say that this is the new Tails. It happened in Colors and Lost World, but other than that, Tails has been all over the place. He was just a sidekick character in Generations, he was worthless in Forces, and in Sonic Boom he's actually written surprisingly well.
Sonic Boom?
Yes, I brought up Boom Tails specifically because he is the one who was supposed to be different. Yet I feel they've gotten him right better than the main series writers have. It gives me hope that Tails can be seen in a good light. Most likely false hope, but hope nonetheless.
Yeah, I suppose for nice Tails, it's Mania and Ian Flint's comic where we can find him, with Boom Tails being a decent balance between cute Tails and Pontaf Tails. In other news, Team Rose has been revealed for Team Sonic Racing. It has Amy, Big, and Omo Chow, and other Chow. Well, my apologies for the previous videos when I made predictions. They were way off. I made a terrible mistake. I've been stupid. You know, as soon as the very first thing Sumo said about the storyline is that they'll give a reason why Sonic is in the car, that should have immediately clued me in that this game was going to be meme central. Sonic Twitter, the game. So of course it's Big and Omo Chow as Amy's partners. It's No Use and Get a Load of This will also definitely be in the game, and I think we have a good chance of Sonic making a surprise appearance as well, so hooray!
Sarcasm aside, I still kinda looking forward to this game because I do love sumo racing games. And it still looks pretty fun to play. It's just every creative decision so far has been one that doesn't really get me excited. So, and I'm kinda disappointed Spagonia seems to take place in floating roller coaster in the sky level instead of like taking place down in the streets itself. It's a little disappointing. Come on, Team Sonic Racing, make me excited again. So far it's crumbling apart. But hey, at least Crush 40 is back, so that's nice. Anyway, we'll talk about comic books in the next Dissected. So see you then. Bye bye.